What's up, Coaster Demons? Here is my top 9 roller coasters at Six Flags America. Number 9, and most certainly last in the park, is Mind Eraser. This ride is just plain out awful. It is so rough. You get headbanging on every section of the ride. You just get a massive headache after the ride. My eye views almost fell off on this ride, actually. That's how much headbanging I was getting on this ride. The inline twists at the end of the ride are just the worst parts of the ride, as your head just keeps getting slammed to the side of the restraints. Overall, this ride is absolutely terrible, and this is actually the worst coaster I've ridden out of all my 148 credits. It is 148 on my credits, so that's dead last. This ride is just absolutely dreadful and needs to be torn down. Number 8 is Great Chase. I did not ride this when I went to Six Flags America. This is a kiddie coaster, so obviously it's going to be lower on the list. The only reason why I'm not putting it in last place is because that's how bad Mind Eraser is. So that's why I'm putting Great Chase above it. However, I heard Great Chase is an awful coaster as well. Number 7 is Raging Cajun. This coaster mostly feels like a wild mouse in the first half of the ride, but the second half of the ride, the train starts spinning a lot. So the second half is definitely better than the first half. However, I still am not a big fan of this coaster. The first half is so boring, and it's just makes me almost want to fall asleep in the first half. That's how boring it is, and it's very forceless too. The second half, it definitely gets better because it spins a lot, but overall, this ride just isn't that good. It's a good coaster for families, but for me, who really likes thrilling coasters and extremely intense coasters, this ride just did not do it for me. This ride definitely spins a lot more than most of the spinning coasters I've ridden. But I still prefer Shredder and Laugh Track over it, which are two other spinning coasters, because those rides did more than this. Overall, Raging Cajun is a good family coaster, but for me, I was not a fan of it. Number 6 is Roar. If you saw my POV of Roar, I said it was really fun on the brake run, once the ride was over. But my second ride of the day was just not that good. It was really rough and jerky. I sat in the back row too, so that might have been a reason why I wasn't a big fan of it. There wasn't too much airtime either. There was like 3 good moments. Other than that, there really wasn't any airtime. Roar is actually my favorite GCI at the moment because I have not ridden that many GCIs, and the other GCIs I've ridden aren't that good. Roar is not a terrible ride. I actually like Roar because it's just a fun ride, kinda. It is actually fun, I'll admit that. And it's kind of forceful. But overall, Roar is a decent ride, but it's nothing special. Number 5 is Firebird. This is easily one of the most underrated coasters I've ever ridden. People complain about this ride being extremely rough and very forceful. I'll admit, it's rough in the front row and not very forceful in the front row. But the back row, it's butter smooth and it's super whippy in the back row too. It's also pretty intense. That final corkscrew in the back row is so whippy. There's some pretty good whippy transitions too in the back row. There's a really good airtime moment, like that drop off what was once a mid-course, I think. You get flung out of your seat on that drop, and this is overall actually just a really fun ride. It's probably the most underrated B&M I've ridden. It's probably tied for the most underrated B&M I've ridden with Green Lantern at Six Flags Great Adventure. Overall, Firebird is actually a really good ride, and I really enjoyed it. Number 4 is Wild One. This is currently my favorite PTC wooden coaster I've ridden. The airtime is so strong in the back row. You get thrown out of your seat. You get like standing airtime. Even with those lap bars, they're not buzz bars, but they're kind of like those PTC lap bars. You still get standing airtime and really good airtime on every drop and airtime moment of the ride. You just get thrown out of your seat on every moment of the ride. This ride isn't that intense, but the airtime makes up for it. Okay, that helix is actually really intense at the end, but the airtime is just so good on this ride, and that's why I love it so much. This is overall a great wooden coaster, and definitely one of the best coasters at Six Flags America. Alright, now we're in the top 3, and these next 3 coasters all make my 25 coasters I've ever ridden as of spring 2021. Number 3 is Joker's Jinx. This ride is one of the most intense coasters I've ever ridden. I almost blacked out on one moment of this ride. I definitely did gray out. That's how intense this ride is. The inversions are so much fun as you get whipped through them, especially in the back row. I got a front row and back row ride, and it was just insane. Joker's Jinx just is so good. I can't believe I ever had this right next to Flight of Fear on my rankings. Joker's Jinx is so much better. I have Flight of Fear ranked as my number 29 coaster at the moment, and Joker's Jinx as my number 22 coaster at the moment. That's how much Joker's Jinx is better than Flight of Fear now. Overall, Joker's Jinx is just such an incredible ride. It's super intense. The inversions are so much fun. The launch is great too. This ride is just such a great ride, and definitely a must-ride coaster you must ride at Six Flags America. Number 2 is Batwing. This ride is insane. This is just such a good ride. It's super intense. The back row is super whippy. That's easily my favorite row on the ride, the back row. And the inversions are so much fun, especially that vertical loop. That vertical loop is super intense. The helix is also very intense. This ride is just overall such a good ride. It absolutely obliterates Superman Ultimate Flight and Nighthawk. This ride is just so good. It's just such a fun ride too. It's not the smoothest coaster in the world. It's kind of rattly, but overall this is just such a good ride, and I love it so much. It's so intense. Towards the end, there's these really good inline twists, which are a lot of fun. The vertical loop is so intense. The drop is pretty good, where you actually, for some reason, get airtime on that drop. I don't know how, but you do. Overall, Batwing is an incredible coaster, and is also a must-ride at Six Flags. Coaster you must ride at Six Flags America. And finally, number 1 is Superman Ride of Steel. This ride is incredible. As you remember a while back ago, this was my least favorite hypercoaster I've ridden, and now this is definitely one of my favorite hypercoasters I've ridden. This is currently my number 5 hypercoaster I've ridden, behind Apollo's Chariot, Sky Rush, Superman the Ride, and Candemonium. As you remember a while back, I had this ranked as my least favorite hyper. No, this is definitely one of my favorite hypers. The airtime on every hill is so strong. The first hill is mostly floater, but the rest of the hills is strong ejector. There's only 4 moments of ejector airtime, but this ride is still so good. This ride is in my top 15. It actually ranks number 15. I love this ride so much. The helixes are actually pretty intense. This is overall such a fun ride, and it's so underrated too. I don't get the hate for it. The restraints aren't that good on this ride, I'll admit that. It's a T-bar with like these bars on the side of the T-bar for some reason, which aren't the best restraints in the world, but they're not terrible either. This ride has an amazing finishing to the ride, because there's 3 really strong airtime hills where you just get thrown out of your seat. I got standing airtime on those hills. It was insane. Then there's like this hill after the first helix, after the straight section of track. That's one of the best airtime moments I've experienced. You just go flying over that hill, and you're literally standing up out of your seat. Even if you get stapled on the ride, you're almost standing out of your seat. That's how strong the airtime is on that hill. Overall, Superman Ride of Steel is absolutely an amazing coaster. And as I said about Batwing and Joker's Jinx, it's a must-ride coaster at Six Flags America. So yeah, that is my countdown of the top 9 coasters at Six Flags America. Make sure to like this video, also subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all next time. Keep coasting on my coaster demons. Peace out.